This is Encouraging Reading for Enjoyment in ELLs by Nicole Kane. When I think about how I learned English, even as a child in an English-only household, I would still argue that I learned the language predominantly from reading. Reading independently was what enhanced my vocabulary, taught me proper grammar, and formed my understanding of how we structure writing. As a teacher to English language learners, the idea of creating voracious readers is enticing, because with such limited class time, the more students read independently, the better. Thus, this became my summer goal for my upcoming class of students, to find a way to make my students like reading so that they feel like reading is a choice they would like to make and not something that is forced upon them by their teachers. So, throughout this video, we will discuss setting the stage, the characteristics of ELLs, self-efficacy, and social-emotional considerations in literacy. Then we will discuss the teacher's role and how the teacher's views on reading impacts students. And finally, we will get into what happens within the school day, the components of reading instruction, the implications for ELLs, and independent reading practices and methods that can be implemented. So, characteristics of English language learners, or ELLs, vary depending on the individual child, but WIDA sorts language learning into 4 categories: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Together, these form a person's ability to receive and express language, with listening and reading being receptive skills, and writing and speaking being expressive skills. These skills are not held in isolation, though. They work together to form a person's understanding of a language, not just English, but any language. Increased independent reading would primarily target a student's ability to read through increased practice, but it also has a large impact on their writing. As reading and writing are reciprocal skills, higher exposure to other people's writing has been shown to improve a student's writing abilities. The goal is to increase ELL's self-efficacy in their reading ability by increasing the number of texts they are exposed to throughout the school year. Self-efficacy is a person's belief in their own ability to complete a task. According to Bokeh's 2015 report, students have a higher likelihood of not attempting academic tasks that they do not feel capable of completing. For teachers, self-efficacy is a key component in instruction, as many struggling learners will not attempt academic tasks if they do not feel capable of completing them. Therefore, students who do not feel capable or believe in their own abilities will be at a disadvantage when learning new material. This makes self-efficacy critical for reading development, as it contains many opportunities for students to fail. Learning to read inherently contains a great deal of trial and error. For ELLs, this has increased as they do not have the same exposure to the English language that their peers do. There are more unfamiliar concepts, and therefore more opportunities to feel like this content is outside of their abilities. The influence of self-efficacy on learning suggests that effective literacy instruction must consider the social and emotional needs of learners. Teachers need to ensure that students feel encouraged and capable of completing the reading tasks set out before them. This is often seen through the practice of scaffolding material for students' varied levels so that the task at hand is accomplishable. However, increasing the amount that students read independently can also be used as a way to encourage confidence in their abilities. Increasing time spent reading independently provides time to practice real skills in context, exposes students to advanced writing techniques, builds stamina and comprehension, and increases students' confidence in their abilities. The only question that remains is, how do we get students to read more and Donna Lynn Miller's book, The Book Whisperer, Awakening the Inner Reader in Every Child, was inspirational in reshaping my views of reading instruction and creating this presentation. Reading is not just a skill, it is a means of connection. In her words, this is how I show my students that I love them, by putting books in their hands, by noticing what they are about, and finding books that tell them, I know how it is, I know who you are, and even though we may never speak of it, read this book, and know that I understand you. If we are concerned about our students' emotional connections to reading, then we must also consider our own. For academic skills, we often discuss the importance of modeling and displaying our thought processes to our students. Why can't we apply this concept in our pursuit to encourage students to read? To encourage students to read, we can share our love of reading with them. We can discuss our challenges and successes with them, to let them know that they are not alone. We can hold book discussions with students in which we treat them as readers, so that they feel like their opinions about books are valued. In the same vein, we can help our students choose books and take their book recommendations, so that they feel that they are seen. Books are a method of communication, not just from the author to the readers, but in the way that we share books amongst ourselves. As Miller said, we can help students feel seen and heard through the language of sharing books. For English learners, this language does not require them to say the perfect thing in English. As educators, we can show them books that we have loved and read those that they connected with as a way of better understanding each student as a person. In the year 2000, the National Reading Panel summarized effective reading instruction into 5 components: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. These 5 components are familiar to just about any teacher that teaches reading. This report, however, did not find a positive correlation between independent reading and achievement in literacy. Many teachers and researchers have since contested this with their own evidence, both antecedent and backed by data. These 5 components are critical for developing learners' literacy and can be supported by increasing students' independent reading. Even if there are strategies that have a larger effect on a child's literacy development, why would we not want to encourage them to read more? Furthermore, why would we not want to provide our students with opportunities to read for enjoyment purely for the sake of loving the literature? Standard reading instruction is based upon students having an oral foundation in the English language. All 5 of the National Reading Panel's reading components are much simpler if a child has a background listening to and speaking the language of instruction. For most ELLs, this foundation does not exist. Commonly used scaffolds and supports for ELLs are seeking to supplement this such as front-loaded vocabulary instruction, increased visuals, and realia. However, we can also encourage students to read in their free time as a way to increase their exposure to the English language. The National Reading Panel reports identified components of reading instruction can be benefited by independent reading. In particular, independent reading supports students' development in fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Independent reading provides students with opportunities for more practice reading. This increases fluency as they are exposed to more words more times. They may also choose to read favorite books multiple times, allowing them to increase fluency through repeated reading. Reading independently provides students with increased exposure to new vocabulary and opportunities to practice strategies for determining meaning in a real-life context. Students will not be provided with the meaning by an adult, but will have to use context clues to determine the meaning of unfamiliar words. They are also able to read for longer stretches of time without interruptions. While whole class novels are taken day by day, students are free to read more in one sitting. This makes it easier to comprehend the plot, as students are reading a book over the course of a week rather than the course of a month. Plot details and characters will be easier to recall due to the recency. This same concept of allowing students to read a beloved book more than once also builds comprehension, as students may notice details that they missed on the first read or understand aspects of a book better when they have more context. Miller's belief is that the components of independent reading are time, choice, response, community, and structure. The most important aspect is student choice. Students must be allowed to choose the books that they want to read so that they have a reason to read. Students also need time to find these books and to read them in the classroom. If they begin the books within the classroom, they will be more encouraged to read of their own volition, as they are now engrossed in the book. To build writing and discussion skills, teachers often try to build in a component of response. This should include authentic practices such as book discussions, reviews, and summaries. Community is also vital to students' independent reading, particularly opportunities to interact with peers. Numerous studies have shown that peers are the most influential voices in helping students choose which text to read. Finally, students need a defined structure in which to read. They must know the exceptions and responsibilities that they have during reading time. With these 5 pillars in mind, it becomes easier to envision independent reading's place within the classroom and the structure needed to define it. There are many methods that teachers can use to encourage students to increase their independent reading time. Here we will discuss just a few. First, teachers can provide students with additional free reading time in class. Once students have begun a book or series that they enjoy, they will have increased motivation to continue reading. This increases the likelihood that they will choose to read on their own. The teacher can create a sense of importance around reading by giving them additional time as well. Time not spent working on instruction is for reading. It is for falling into your book and enjoying that transportation to another world. It is not just something to do when other things are done, but an important act that takes advantage of extra time. Second, teachers can create instruction based around literary groups rather than whole class novels. As Miller put it, providing students with the opportunity to choose their own books to read empowers and encourages them. It strengthens their self-confidence, rewards their interests, and promotes a positive attitude towards reading by valuing the reader and giving him or her a level of control. Students can discuss these books with their peers, creating a sense of group involvement in reading a book that all students have stake in. This practice also allows the teacher to differentiate the books students are reading, as they are in smaller groups, allowing all students to read books that are closer to their reading levels and therefore increasing their self-efficacy. Third, staff members can implement literary clubs outside of instructional time. This provides students with an opportunity to discuss what they are reading with their peers and other teachers. The club can allow students to choose the books they are reading. Many schools already have competitions such as Battle of the Books, which can accomplish this purpose. Students are exposed to a wide variety of subject matters, genres, and authors from a designated list. They get together outside of the school day to discuss what they are reading and share whether they liked the book or not. Students gain a sense of accomplishment from reading a large number of books and competing with their friends using their newfound literary knowledge. Throughout this video, we have discussed the importance of considering self-efficacy and social-emotional learning when teaching ELLs, and how that can be benefited by independent reading. We discussed how the teacher's view and explanation of reading shapes students' perspectives on it. Finally, we have covered the components of reading instruction and how they can be strengthened through having ELLs read more independently, along with practical methods for increasing students' time spent reading on their own. This school year, I look forward to putting this into practice with my own students. More than improving their academic skills, I hope that they gain an appreciation for literacy the way I have and see it as a means of escapism and emotional fulfillment. We can learn so much from books, and that learning should be a very personal practice. We are empowering students to choose what they want to learn about and to dedicate time each day to spend teaching themselves new things. I would like to give a special thanks to all the articles and books that I used in researching this presentation. Please pause the video if you are interested in reading further. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I hope you all have a lovely school year.